So hello and welcome back to Ayahuasca Assisted Therapy. Thank you for listening to our podcast. And if you like this podcast, please like and share with your friends. Today I'm here with Patrick Morency. I'm so glad to be here. This is the first time that we are kind of meeting closer as well. So I'm really curious and excited to get to know more about what he's doing and his work in the psychedelic space as an integration coach, but he's also doing somatic body work and NARM, right? That's the abbreviation that you're going to tell us about what is that exactly. So yeah, we met through Clubhouse. That is a really good platform, and there is a good psychedelic discussion going on there. So if you haven't been on Clubhouse, please check it out. We have the link in the description, and join us. It's an interactive app. You can participate in our in the conversation. You can ask questions. It's really cool, and there's a lot of like-minded people there, at least in this field. So yeah, welcome Patrick. Thank you so much for coming, and we're trying to make time for a month now, to make this happen. So I'm happy to be here with you, and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for the invite. It's great to be with you.
Yeah. So let's just tell something about yourself that you think that it's important that people know about you.
Okay. Well, like you said, I'm trained as a somatic body worker. I also work as a coach, and I'm on my way to uh, a master's degree in somatic psychotherapy. Um,
Awesome.
I'm working as an integration coach, and one of the reasons why I wanted to get into this was because of the lack of support that I saw around ceremonies that I was going to. And there were just lots of people that were coming back for their 100th time or something like that, and they were still stuck in these loops and these spirals that they were stuck in. And I had gathered so much from my experiences, and I was wondering why people weren't moving in a different way in the world after their experiences. And I shortly realized afterwards that I was sitting in men's groups. I had just different ways of processing what I had been through. Nothing was explicit for psychedelics, but I had these ways that were I guess integrative in a way. And I just started to realize how much of that was lacking, and people were just going to the ceremony and then going back to life. And it was like I was like going on a roller coaster ride or something like that. It was great while they were on it, and then the next week they're like, yeah, I think that was cool, but I'm still stuck. So yeah, that was kind of the motivation for me to start exploring what it might look like to be a guide or a coach.
Right. But you were like already kind of like a therapist before you went to work with the medicine, or the two came together into your life?
No, so yeah, my first medicine experience was with peyote in a teepee, and it was I had no plan to be there. I mean, there's a long story behind it, but I ended up landing on one of the presidents of the Native American church's land.
Mhm.
And a few days after being there, I was there to do some like farming and build some chicken coops and stuff like that. And all of a sudden now I'm in a teepee and we're eating peyote for, 20 hours. And it was this, I had experimented with psychedelics before that, but never in a ceremonial context. And it totally took my life in a different direction.
Right.
Yeah, I found myself, vision questing and sun dancing and sweat lodging often, and working with all the different medicines, and yeah, kind of coming into my own as a human of service. Like, and I could say that was like the fork in the road that
Right.
shifted into this direction. Before that, I
And
was bartending and
okay.
carpentry.
Okay, that's cool. I
Yeah.
love woodwork, and people who can create beautiful stuff with their hands. So it was kind of a destiny kind of thing for you that the universe brought you and put it in front of you, and you just went for it. It wasn't that you were like super unhappy or suffering in your life and looking for something in an active way to change, right?
I was suffering, but I wasn't looking for
Right.
the medicine. It found me.
Yeah, that's so beautiful because many people have similar story with the addition that I was actively seeking something to help myself, and then I was called to the medicine. So that is super beautiful. So that was the beginning, and then kind of like how did it unfold from there? Like what happened?
Well, I guess I bumbled around for a bit, exploring and trying to find my way because after some of the ceremonies, I was seeing the world differently and relating to some of the people that had been in my sphere before was a little bit different. But I also felt very much alone in it. Like I had seen things that the people that were around me hadn't. And there were some struggles in, yeah, really the integration process for me as I reflect on it now. I didn't know how to bring a lot of those things that I had seen and felt home and really embody them. It was more like I went on this alien spaceship and I learned a bunch of things, and then I came back and was like, well, now what? Um, so it was years after that before I was on the hill during a vision quest where this just wave of uh, new energy came through, and all of a sudden I'm up there. I was very selfish up until that point. I probably still am, but at that point there were 7 other people on this hill, and I literally just started praying for all of them. And that wasn't my intention when I came to that ceremony, but it was just something that came over me, and I knew more songs than everyone else, and so I could sing to them in the night when it was dark and scary. And like these weren't things that I ever thought would be a thing for me. And I talk about Vision Quest and some of these other ceremonies kind of in the same. I lump them in together because I think non-ordinary states of consciousness can all be considered psychedelic. And after 4 days of no food and no water, things get pretty psychedelic. Uh, so after that, it was kind of like this, okay, this feels really good and resonant, and finally I have a purpose. And how do I work with this? What can I do besides just sitting out front of the health food store and having people come and sit down at the table next all their stories and try and support them that way. I did that for a while, and but how could I really do this from a place of uh, like having some training and skills, and how could I make a living doing it too, because I have to eat. And that was when I started putting on nonviolent communication workshops, and um, I did one of those for the Native American church at one point, and I wasn't supposed to do it. This is another one of those interesting things. I had gone to this NVC training, and then I went to this 9-day NAC meeting, and somebody hadn't showed up. There was supposed to be somebody presenting, and they didn't show up. And the person that was coordinating said, "Hey, Patrick, do you have anything that you could share?" I said, "Well, I just went to this 9-day training, so I have a binder that's like this thick, and I could probably lead some exercises." And sure enough, I did. I did 2 hours, and they wanted me to come back again, and so I did 4 hours the next day. And all of a sudden now I'm a facilitator of nonviolent communication, and that wasn't planned either. And and so that kind of got me in front of people and bringing groups together and things like that, and kind of gave me some confidence to move towards moving into being trained as a somatic body worker, and then learning about this complex trauma model, which led me to kind of the school path that I'm on right now.
Right. So I think many people can relate to your experience and, searching for something to help themselves and also maybe help others as well. So, how did you find these tools? How did you go about looking for what you want to study or what you want to do? That's one of my questions. The other question is that did you have any therapist when you were in your process, at the beginning and everything, who you could go to and who could support you, or it was kind of like you learned on your own, like trial and error as you went along?
Yeah, lots of learning on my own, lots of like YouTube videos and I sat in a lot of men's circles around this time and a little bit after, which was really supportive. Um, just it was a place where I could be authentic and be witnessed, and that was very helpful. Um, I didn't have a therapist at the time. I was still didn't really where I had come from originally. Like I grew up in Massachusetts, just south of Boston, and talking about mental health wasn't a thing that we ever talked about, and being vulnerable as a man was not a thing. So I was still kind of transitioning into like the self that I wanted to be at this time, and still therapy was like too edgy and kind of weird for me at the time. And now I look back on it and like, wow, that would have been really helpful. But those were traumas and programs that I had that they take time to unwind and work through. Um, yeah, and as far as like finding the things and kind of finding the medicines and finding my purpose and all these things, this is a place where I wish I could say, well, I did this and then this happened and I wanted this and I went after it and this is what happened. But it really feels like I've been on like a magic carpet ride, kind of just ending up in like these opportunities to like I stumbled into this opportunity to be a group facilitator. I stumbled into this TP. Like these were never things that I intended on, or maybe I was intending on them like subconsciously, and I was like being danced by some greater intelligence or something like that. And maybe these are moments where I could kind of get out of the way and just be open to, uh, what wants to happen, rather than what I'm like trying to like steer or make happen,
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I can so relate, and I think you did something in a way that you did desire to learn and to grow and to help yourself and others. And I always say to people that ask and you shall receive. That is really true, even if you don't know what you are asking for exactly. But I'm desiring, this so much, and I want to go to this direction. That it really happens as you described, that the universe bring you the people, places, opportunities, connections that are leading you that way. And often I think that we can just not notice those opportunities, or to with our mind to be focused and stubborn that this is what I want, and not not receiving what is offered. So I think that's definitely part of the process to surrender and to allow ourselves to go with this flow, while we have a desire and we have a strong intention that this is what I'm looking for or going for, but I'm not sure how that's gonna unfold or manifest. So, do you want to share with us a little bit about the tools that you are using and why you love them? Those specific tools you mentioned, the nonviolent communications, and I know that you have a couple of other things that you're passionate about.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking. The nonviolent communication was it was an invitation into like, mm, maybe understanding more of the nuts and bolts of compassion. Like in nonviolent communication, we look at everyone doing all the things that they do in service to getting needs met. So everything that we're doing, we're doing to get needs met. And as humans, we all share the same universal needs. Maybe some of us have needs for certain things that are a little bit more pronounced than others. Maybe my need for acceptance is higher on my list than my need for um, I don't know, play or something like that. And then somebody may have it inversed, but we all have the same universal needs. And all of our feelings are results of these needs being met or unmet. And we all have the same universal feelings. So when we're talking about feelings and needs, we can connect on a level that is universal and shared. And so when somebody does something that I don't like, I can remember that it's a tragic expression of an unmet need. Like, and whatever need they're trying to meet is something that I value too. Just the way that they're going about it is kind of like where we end up in trouble. So I love having that as sort of a foundation, to build from, because then we can hold everyone in loving kindness. It's like, oh, you're doing that again. Eey, and I get it, you know. The other tools are the somatic tools that I use, for body work. We work with the nervous system. Uh, it's been on pause for the pandemic for a bit, which has been really unfortunate because there are the deep healing of touch can get into places that are before our left hemisphere comes online. So in our earliest ages, if we have trauma, maybe before 3 or something, we don't have a coherent narrative or, like explicit, we don't have memory online about it. So it's hard to talk about those traumas. This is where psychedelics is another way that some of those things can come up. So that's why I love psychedelics and somatics, because they can both access um, places that more top down approaches can't really get to. And this NARM model that I use addresses complex and developmental trauma, and it's both top down and bottom up. So we're exploring what's getting in the way of us having what we want. And ultimately the complex trauma is all about shame and our deep internal hatred for ourselves that comes on as children. It's
Right.
tragic, and and I've seen such beautiful things with this model, and then the opportunity for us to reconnect to these split off emotions and these parts of ourselves that we deny or repress. And
Right.
yeah.
Is that similar to like inner child work, what you're describing? I'm not familiar with that model.
In some ways, I would say, yeah,
Mm-hmm. Okay,
yeah.
is it like a verbal, like just your talk therapy kind of thing, or is that includes like other things as well?
So it's going to be like a talk therapy. It's going to appear as a talk therapy,
Okay.
but being trained as a somatic therapist, I'm tracking somatic shifts and highlighting moments of reorganization and connection and inviting awareness of the body. And so with you know timed interventions, it works both top down and bottom up, which is one of the things that I really love about the model.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you started learning all these things and learning about these things, I'm sure that you had some light bulbs going on about your life and your childhood. So, how was that experience for you, and how did your life change on an everyday level thanks to all this learning and all this experience and all this healing work that you've been doing over the years? Like, what is that something you can tell people? Yeah, before I used to be like this and now I'm like that. Can you
Yeah.
pinpoint a couple of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Geez, where do I start? There's a long list. For one, like knowing what is happening for me, knowing um, my my emotions, being able to feel my emotions, being able to be vulnerable and authentic and open and honest and things like that. Um, those were hard for me. I my
For all of
parents,
us. That's not
yeah,
something we are taught, you know. It's like the opposite is what we are taught. Just pretend that everything is okay, you know.
exactly, yeah, and we get taught that at a very early age, and at some point, maybe it helps in some way at some point, but as we grow older, it definitely becomes the thing that gets in the way of us wanting that gets in the way of us to have like better relationships and to be internally driven and heartful and things like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I really do believe that most of our problems come from trauma. I really resonate with Peter Levine, Gabor Mate, you know, they all, yeah, there's a couple of people in the field who talk about this, how trauma causes like chronic disease and then mental emotional imbalance. And that's definitely my experience over 20 years being a therapist and my personal life as well. And I remember that, you know, I didn't even like when I was younger. I thought trauma is something like a car accident or something, or you know, you are in a war or something, and that's trauma. So I never thought I have trauma, you know. So that was I remember for me one of the big things when I started to learn and to study psychology and to go more into trauma healing, that I'm like, I am traumatized. I have anxiety, all of these things that I didn't have a label before, or I wasn't conscious of because I always had anxiety and I just thought that's normal because that was my normal. You know, that was a big revelation for me to even grasp, you know, my situation in a more accurate way, not that distorted way that I was looking at myself. Like, how was that with you, if you can recall?
Yeah, a similar experience. I would say the majority of people still don't understand the breadth of trauma in our culture. Um, in our culture, I mean, across the whole planet. Um, the more I uncover these things that get in the way of me feeling more present, like even right now, I'm noticing I'm a little nervous. I have a little bit of tension, and maybe I could potentially be speaking a little faster than I normally would. A few years ago, I wouldn't even realize that. It'd be like, oh, I just talk fast and I feel tense. Now I can recognize, oh, yeah, there are things that are coming up for me in my nervous system and in my programming that are telling me that this is how I need to be in this moment, which are not true. And that's happening for most of us, oftentimes throughout the day. And this is kind of where the psychedelic piece comes in, because we think we are these costumes that we wear, and we're not. But until we get a chance to see ourselves without the costumes on, we just think we are these animates of of how we show up in the world, which are the result of trauma. I would venture to say that the majority of our personalities and our characters are all shaped from what we could call trauma. And it's such a big word that people are like, whoa, that's a lot. But when you start dissecting what trauma is and the adaptations that we make, I I put my chips in that over there on that spot, because I'm betting from my own experience that the major strategies and survival styles that I, show up with are a result of environmental failure and my adaptations to that. So, but having, been in many psychedelic ceremonies, I can, like, when I'm aware, I can separate myself from Patrick, the costume, or the trauma survival strategy, and kind of like the capital S self that is, below that or above that or around that, or that's always there, you know.
Absolutely, and that totally ties into my next question about awareness, because that was like a big part of, for me, with the medicines, expanding my awareness and seeing myself in a different way. As you said, that we think we know who we are and what the world is and what's going on, and that's not true. And then we are trapped in our small little world, with all these blind spots, and circling around and around. I'm sure many people can relate to the circling experience and repeating the same mistakes. So these beautiful plants really help me to expand my awareness, and start to see myself from different perspectives, and the world, and that was a huge revelation, as we talked before. Wow, I didn't know I am like that, or I have that, but now I'm aware. So how was your journey with the psychedelic medicines? Like, what kind of plants were you called to work with, and how did the ayahuasca came into the picture?
Mm, yeah. Well, I first worked with peyote and ceremonially, and have worked with that medicine quite a bit, and it's occurred to me as like a heart cleanser. It cleanses my heart, and when I'm in ceremony with other people who have experienced similar uh, traumas, or had to adapt in similar ways to the world, I think there's a resonant energetic expression inside their body that resonates with mine. So when they're getting well in ceremony, their their vibration is matching mine. And so, somebody's kind of going through their process over there, and all of a sudden I'm getting sick because they're getting sick. I think we're both healing the same trauma, where our vibrations are matched up. So that's kind of uh, one of the first places where I started noticing that there was more to even what was going, like, there was more to myself, that I realized there was more self, there was more of a connection to something larger. And then I started realizing, like, the interconnectedness between all of us through these ceremonies. Um, my my ayahuasca experiences have been very, very powerful. Um, yeah, probably the first time that I was able to communicate without using words, and to, psychically communicate with other people in ceremony on that medicine, which was, I still have to be very aware that I'm not, like, externalizing that as something like that's just like magical and out there, and like remembering that actually happened, and it is an amazing experience when it does happen, and the power of our thoughts. I remember sitting in circle one time, and there was a guy that showed up late, and I was a little frustrated about that. And before I let it go, and before we all finished our ceremony, I was still kind of hung up on it, and directed a little bit of energy towards him. Not that I was wishing him anything, but I was just like, "Grr," kind of like, like, oh, can you just stop it, or can you just go away, or something like that. And watching the impact of that on him during the ceremony, and his reactions to that. I mean, he got sick at that moment, and was having a really tough time, and I had to realize just how powerful we are as humans, and like what sort of vibrations we're sending out there at all times. Um, those were a few pretty powerful experiences, and meeting this like higher self being after a ceremony was still something that I'm curious about. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it's very beautiful, and it's these are the two master plans just for our audience. Like the peyote is called the grandfather and the masculine energy, and the ayahuasca is the grandmother and the feminine energy. And some people believe that all the plants are derived, from these two master teacher plants. So it's very interesting. And I had the other way around. I was with the ayahuasca for 7 years, only with that medicine, and then she told me to go with the grandfather. And that was my first peyote ceremony. And I thought to myself, this is gonna be a piece of cake after all that ayahuasca, the hardcore, experiences. And wow, was I in for a journey. It is so different. It's really a completely different energy, we're not going to go into the details of the ceremonies right now, but very, very different than what I was used to. And of course, trying not to have expectations and stuff, but you do. And the roadman who was leading that beautiful Lakota, like half moon altar ceremony, I told him before that, oh, this is my first time, and I'm a little bit nervous, and I've been with the ayahuasca for many years. And he shared with me that he's been with the ayahuasca also for a while for his own healing. He wasn't serving that medicine, and he said that for him the ayahuasca is like kind of go within and remember who you are and why you are here, and the peyote is okay, bring this knowledge and express it in the world, like put it out and share that gift and manifest it in the world. And I was like, wow, I still have goosebumps that I'm talking about it. That just so resonated with me. And I did feel that I needed, well, it's not that I needed, we don't really need anything, but after all this time with the ayahuasca, there was a very specific journey and specific energy. The peyote was my next step, so to say. So that was very, very interesting. Do you feel particularly like called to either of the plant that says, no, this is my medicine, and I like, the other ones as well, or you just use like intuitive guidance in terms of what medicine you would like to work with?
Yeah, usually something more intuitive.
Mm.
And I had a dream that brought me to the ayahuasca.
Mm.
Yeah, I had a dream, and she said it was time. And I said, okay. It was around New Year's too. It was kind of a special time. I was like, all right, well, I guess this is the year. And then she was showing up everywhere, like at all the invites. And yeah.
Yeah, that's her. So let's move into a little bit like helping and supporting other people. What is that you offer, in terms of kind of therapies or containers, especially with the medicines? I'm thinking about. Well, my first question is: do you take anybody, or you specifically work with people who wanna work with the medicine, or it's not like a criteria for you? You work with any kind of people who wanna come for healing.
Yeah, I work with anyone. Um, for the most part, I'm doing very little psychedelic integration actually right now. I'm
Okay.
doing more one-on-one uh, coaching at this point, and people tend to come in waves with the medicine, and they're wanting like support going in or support after. And so I'm helping like bookend their experiences. I'm not necessarily taking anyone on any journeys.
Right. Yeah,
So
that's what I do. I do the prep and the integration, and the people go to their choice of circle, or I can refer them to medicine places if they need a recommendation. So, do you have like a framework that you use and say, this is my prep program, this is my integration program, or that's also more intuitive and you go kind of with the people and their rhythm and their issues? How does that look like?
yeah, so it's definitely intuitive, and also kind of just fluid with the NARM model. So we're looking at some of these traumas so that, somebody's not getting into their first ceremony. It's the first time they're seeing these shadows. Maybe they have a little familiarity with them when they're going in, and we can, set them up to have an intention, and really be more aware of who they are and what they're going to face potentially in there, because we know it can always vary, and from ceremony to ceremony it's always different. But I think the more we know ourselves, the more we can actually, the more we've done our internal work, the more we're going to get like these pure downloads and these deep messages. If we go in and we're going to resist, and we're trying not to see these parts of ourselves, our experience is going to be very different. It reminds me of like the vision quest. If you haven't prepared to not eat for 4 days, you're going to spend the whole time up there thinking about how you're not eating for 4 days, and you're going to miss a lot of what's available for you if the eating part is kind of like, all right, yeah, I'm not eating for 4 days, that's it. And now there's all this other space. I'm not resisting that. There's all this other space for things to come in. So I guess I'm trying to like create space and familiarity with them, and also give people some insights from my own experience, and to like take a little bit of the mm, uh I don't know, maybe make it a little bit easier to go in, and I'm definitely not wanting to give expectations or say my experience is like your experience, or
Yeah.
anything like that. Um, but the other end of it, when people come back from their ceremony, we're doing similar work. Um, what I like to offer people is an opportunity to do like their own kind of like homework practice, which involves like art and movement and connection with nature and these things. And I've been looking at it like through the chakra system. So like the psychedelic experience often happens in these upper chakras. And when we talk about it, we start to kind of bridge the experience that happens up here with our body. And then if we can talk about it in community or with other people, we can have kind of a heart opening experience. And then we can kind of move down and down, and into like the somatic experience and the artistic expressive experience. And then the
I
idea
love
is like,
that. I never
yeah,
thought about it this way. It's kind of anchoring your experience, bringing it down. That's so
yeah.
cool.
And then giving birth to it out the bottom, and giving it back to the earth. Yeah, and so then we kind of create like this, like
Yeah. What is if you work with the client, like what is that for you that means, okay, this was a successful process, and okay, this is the end of it because we reached, and because we always talk about that it's an ongoing process your whole life. You're gonna be on this path, and it is true. But in terms of, for example, when I work with somebody, they set intentions at the beginning, like very precisely what they want to get out of this experience. So for example, if that's physical healing, for example, if somebody wants to focus on their healing from physical disease such as like cancer or autoimmune, then the successful completion would be them not having the disease anymore, right? So there's something that we can like literally measure, in some way that, okay, like that was a definite before and after, and thanks to all the work that you did, now this is where you are. So how do you monitor, like how long will you go with somebody, and where is that point that, okay, we can say that some integration and embodiment did happen, and how do you measure that kind of?
Yeah, great question. And I love that you named going in with intention and finding out what clients want, because
Right.
then that puts the client in the driver's seat, and it's really about them and their direction rather than, okay, well, here's the spreadsheet and you got to do this, this, and this. And it becomes relational, and it's client centered. So
Yeah.
I do the same thing. We try and figure out what it is that the client wants, and I'm thinking of it through like states, traits, and stages. So we we can experience states like a state of presence, right? And then there's the capacity to be present. And so if the client is wanting to experience more presence in their life or something like that, in session we can work to expand their capacity to be present. And we can sort of measure that as they relate to it in their lives, or even in the session. Like somebody might say, well, hey, I want to experience more presence. What they'll usually say is something like, I want to stop yelling at my kids, or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. And then we try and figure out what's underneath that, and we get to something like a state. And then as we build the capacity to experience that state in the session, at the end of it, maybe that'll be like, oh, well, yeah, how are you relating to this? How are you relating to presence right now? Or ask some sort of question so that they can be self-reflective on the journey that they just went through, and maybe through somatic anchors and markers, they can
Right.
say, oh yeah, you know what, I have been feeling extra present right now, and I usually don't, and that's great. And so we'll just measure those traits over time, and see improvements. Yeah. And with certain developmental traumas, it takes a long time, and some of them, it's it takes a really long time. And other ones,
Yeah.
there's these magical moments where people are like, boom, they're instantaneously different,
Absolutely.
and
And,
you can never tell.
I wanted to ask you about the length of the integration. I know that we talked about that it depends on the individual, but I just want to highlight this because I think many people think that they did integration because they had like an integration circle, or they had, 2 sessions with a therapist, and so just, to put it in perspective, in order to create some kind of fundamental shift and change that will stay in your life and you will not regress back, I don't think you can do that in 2 weeks, and unless there is a big miracle, and there are miracles, and of course, but that's not very likely, and that's not how most people, go with their healing. Like, how is your experience with that?
I guess maybe I'll just say, for me, if I were to look back on where I was when I first started working with the medicines, I would have wanted to have a few months leading up.
Mhm.
And I mean, could be many months, or even a year of integration
Totally
afterwards.
agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I have, my program, this is specific to the ayahuasca, but it's 3 months prep and 1 year of integration, and we feel that time for sure. And they still keep journeying afterwards, in their own processes and stuff. But I think that what you mentioned a little bit earlier, to see what's beneath the things, what are the real reasons why behaviors manifest or disease occurs or something like that. We need to see, what is causing this, that what we are interested in, which is quite different from a Western medicine model that addresses the symptoms, on a symptomatic level. So, especially with the plants, we are going, and I think with the ayahuasca, it's very very much for me. That's one of most powerful tool to go to the root of the problems, and she's a wine, and so I'm thinking that it's like so cool, and it's really I had a lot of experience, that things were revealed to people that they suppressed like so deep that it was, unknown to them for many, many years, and this uprooting and this really, I really feel that, that's necessary to transform something, on a fundamental level, and that takes time because you need to clear some layers around it where you can access that core trauma or whatever, that is like creating, the whole system of like disease or dysfunction, so to say.
Yeah, to kind of unblock that energy pathway and have the energy be able to flow through the body um, without those clogs. Because I think that's what happens with trauma is we have these big experiences or these small experiences over time, or these medium experiences, whatever it is, and we end up like we can't be that way. So we either stuff our emotions, or we stuff these ways of being that we want to be, and they get stuck in our body, and they create this tension, and it doesn't allow for our energy to flow as clearly. And when we start pulling back the layers of the onion, more energy flows, and then all of these things that are in the lower areas, they get to be more accessible.
Absolutely. We are coming to the end of our podcast today. So I would love to meet with you again and maybe do an episode focusing on the somatic healing, because I think that's something that people not so familiar with. Most people think of therapy as kind of like a talk therapy. And I think somatic experiencing and somatic healing is just such a huge piece, in our healing process, and so important. So I would love to give more information to people. What does that mean, and what exactly happens, or how do you, if you are up for that? And I would like to finish with, I always ask people this, their definition of love, because my motto is that you are the healer and love is the medicine. And really that was the main teaching that I got from the medicine. And having a better understanding of what love is, because for me, I realized, during the years that what I thought love was, that was like obedience or people pleasing or, commitment, like I did not, and I'm not claiming to know what love is, but I have, I think, a better grasp on it, or at least what is not love, maybe let's just say that. And this whole self-love and healing, I think this is very much connected. For me, that was my experience to love. And if I could have the most powerful intention, for going into a ceremony, then my intention would be, show me how to love, see myself with the eyes of love, show me how that looks like, how that feels like. And really, I think everything comes from that. So if I would want to ask for the source of the healing, well, that's what I do nowadays. I just go with the medicine and to ask her to teach me more about the love, So what do you think about love, and what is your definition, if you would need to use another word? Like, how would you describe what love is?
Wow, big question. Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to me is like love is everywhere, and love is the substrate, or the mycelial network that is
Yes.
connecting, all of us and all things. And it's not that we need to like go out and find love, but more just explore what's kind of getting in the way, or
Mm,
what's blocking us from experiencing what we truly are already.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an undoing rather than learning something new. I totally resonate with that. Mm,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Would you like to leave any message to our audience right now? Anything that you feel passionate about and want to share in this moment?
Hmm.
Especially people who looking, maybe thinking about, starting on a medicine path.
Yeah. I would say to, yeah, to have some conversations with people that are experienced in the space. Ask questions about their experience, and see what resonates inside your body when you're when you're thinking about this path, and when you're learning from these people, and pay attention to your dreams, and see what sort of synchronicities and messages are coming through that are maybe beyond like the thinking mind, because I can grab my pencil and start carry the 2 and times 4, and then decide that way if it's the right time for me to step into this, or I can use other intelligences
Mhm.
that I have, like my antenna that is my body and my heart, and and the information that all the angels of all these human angels around me that are sharing things at all times. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd go slow. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I just talked to somebody who, like, I had a consultation with this person, and he was already booked for a retreat in Colombia with like 5 ceremonies, and then 10 days after, a month of dieta in Peru. And that was the first thing I said. Okay, maybe you can slow down a little bit and just, space it out and see how you feel and what happens. But yeah, these are very powerful tools, and it's good to have humility and respect and awareness, how we are using these tools, because yeah, if you haven't read my book, check it out, my story, as a warning. So yeah, so fun that you were here today, Patrick. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to continue our conversation, and also our connection in the future. And yeah, we're gonna share your details so people can connect with you. It will be in the description of the video, and you are located in Denver, so if we have listeners from that area, they can maybe personally connect with you as well. And is there any programs or anything that you are launching now, or you're offering, that you want to share?
Um, no, not at this time. I've got a few irons in the fire, and some
Doing.
things that are, yeah, some things that are brewing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
Stay
please,
tuned.
yeah, stay tuned and sign up for Patrick's email list. It's really cool. I love your blog. It's very elevating and thought
Oh, thank you.
provoking. So yeah, and yeah, like and share this video, please, and subscribe to our channel. Connect with me for personal a free consultation if you're thinking about working with specifically with the ayahuasca. And yeah, check out the other podcasts, because we are putting out all this information for free to help people who are resonating with all this. So this is like a labor of love from us, and we are doing this of our heart and voluntarily. All of us who are involved in this, the guests as well, just as myself and our little team. So thank you for your support and your cooperation. Leave your comments, leave your questions, let us know what you want to hear about, so we can go into specific topics that you want to hear more about and you are interested. So thank you so much for watching this episode, and we are just sending lots of love from our hearts. Thank you.